we've got here is some essential items for starting to wash your car. You'll notice I have 3 different types of buckets. The first one is just for wheels. The second one is just for water, plain water. And the third one is the one that we're going to have our washing soap and our water in. What I have in all these buckets besides the wheel ones is what I call grit guards. Basically, it's a little plastic separator which goes down to the bottom of your bucket, and what that will do is when there's any kind of dirt that comes down from your wash mitt, it gets trapped underneath the grit guard, and when you dunk your mitt back on top, you don't touch that grit and you don't put that grit back onto the car that you need. I've got 2 wash mitts in my wash bucket, one that will do for all the body and one here which I'll use last, which goes for all the kind of mucky bits. So in between the wheel fenders, under the side skirts, the parts that are really dirty on the car. You don't want to put that mitt onto the paint because cross-contamination, this will pick up a lot of grit and gunk underneath these kinds of parts of the car, and they'll go on your paint, and that's how you cause scratches. The reason why we have 2 buckets for washing is because, which by the way this one has a grit guard as well, what I'll do is I'll grab some soap from this wash section of the car, but before I go to get some more soap, I'll put it into this bucket first with the plain water. So what the plain water does is you can flush out all the gunk you picked up off the car onto the mitt, get all that bad soap out, push it into that bucket before you dunk it back into the soap bucket and back onto the car again. If you just keep using the same bit over and over and over again, you'll find that microfiber picks up the dirt. And what that'll do is, if you pick it up from this section and then go to wash the, say, the front fender, you're going to spread that dirt over again, and that's how you create those scratch marks that we just looked at in the previous couple of slides. In the wheel bucket, I've got these. These are really cool. These are called wheel woolies. Now, not essential, but it is really handy if you have them. Basically, I fill up this bucket just with some regular wash soap and water. You dunk one of these microfiber wheel woolies in there, and then you can get in between the individual spokes of your wheels, and what's really good is you can clean the barrels of the wheels as well, so behind, which you usually don't get to clean. Most handy, of course, if you have a pressure washer as well, because adding a pressure washer means that you can rinse the car with a bit of pressure and knock off the physical dirt before you have to touch it with your mitt. And you can also use one of these, which is a foam lance. So what you do is this comes, you can put some dedicated what's called snow foam into this, the lance, and add the rest with water. So what that'll do is you can spray over the entire car kind of a mist of soap that'll actually pick up the dirt by itself. You let that dwell for a little bit and then you rinse it off again. And what that'll do is it'll, without you having to touch it with the mitt, remove, let's say maybe 50% of what's on the actual car paint without you having to touch it. The biggest thing is we don't want to touch our paint too much. We want to minimize it as much as possible. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said we could do it without touching it at all. That's completely false. We're going to need to use our wash mitts to clean our painted surfaces. But if you can get away with removing at least 50 or 60% of this physical dirt that's on the car, let's say just the pressure washer water alone, plus the snow foam, you're going to be in a better way, and you can reduce scratching and marks that way.
So I've pulled the car out onto the driveway. It's a nice shady time of the afternoon, about 3:30 on a Friday, which is lovely. Anytime you bring your car out onto the driveway, if it's going to be sunny or in direct sunlight, you're not going to have a fun time because the sun will of course dry up all the soap as you try to wash it. Now what I'm also doing here is washing out my buckets before I start using them, because you'll find that there's always a little bit of dust or some sort of dirt that's gotten into the bottom of the bucket even from the last time you washed the car. So I'm going to do that for all 3 of them now. And just a little dash of soap into the wheel bucket. Washing out the mitts is also a good idea as well, just to knock off any loose dirt that might be still left on them. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting a small drop of the car wash soap into the bucket. What I'm also doing is I'm opening up the mitt and then putting a little of that car wash soap into the mitt itself. The reason why I do that is because when it's inside the mitt, it has this slow sort of release. So as I'm using it over the paint, it'll come out with ease rather than not be fully soaped up the entire time. So what I'm doing is using the high pressure hose on the wheels just to knock off any kind of brake dust or dirt that I can just with water alone. Now of course, if you don't have a high pressure washer, you can just do this with a hose. And I'm going inside of the wheel wells as well, just to knock off anything I can. So bringing you guys over to the wheels, I'm using a product called Wheelie Clean by Bowden Zone. So what this will do is, when you spray this all over your wheel, there are many wheel cleaners that do this. The chemicals in the wheel cleaner react with the brake dust or any kind of iron sediment that's on your wheels, and it turns it purple. You can already see on the caliper there, it's started to turn slightly purple. The wheels are already fairly clean, so you don't see a huge reaction. So there you go, there's a little bit of purple action there for you. There's many people online that kind of do this, and you get this huge chemical reaction effect on their really dirty wheels. This is where I'm using the wheel wells. Notice it works really well on these Enkei RCT4s multi-spoke wheels where there's quite a lot to get through. Always start from the top, work your way down to the bottom. I'm using the little one here over the tyre as well, just to get any gunk out or the previous tyre gel that I had on there. And just taking that wheel wally through the fender as well. So high pressure hose, again, straight over the wheel to knock off the wheelie clean and the soap. And through the fender as well. So I'm repeating this step, of course, on the other wheel, and I'm going to go around to the back of the car and do the other two wheels as well.
Average, blow real good trees with a bad bitch. Got a real nice ride with a dark tint. Lay a fine ass lad on a mattress. Got a double cup, I roll a blank. I fuck the bitch, you know what's up. I sip, drink, I can't think.
So now all the wheels are done. I'm using the high pressure cleaner to just rinse off the car and knock off any loose dirt that's already on the paint. The reason why you want to do this before you start touching it straight away with the wash mitt and the soap is because if there's any kind of loose little rocks or dirt, you can knock off most of it without touching it at all. And like we mentioned in the previous section, we want to minimize as much touching as possible on the car. This isn't essential, but if you've got it, it's great. So I'm using the Snow Cannon here, or the Lance as I called it before. It's got Built Hammers Auto Foam in there, which isn't a really high sudsing sort of foam, but it does have a really good cleaning power. A lot of people get tricked into thinking that because their snow foam clings onto their car for a long time that it's more effective, but rather it's just the chemicals inside of the foam and how they actually clean themselves, which is what makes it effective. So taking that through the fender liners as well, and then hitting the car again just so I can finish the bottle. And now I've let it dwell for about a couple minutes now, and I'm just going to rinse it off again with the high pressure cleaner. So I've hit the car with just water to knock off loose dirt. I've hit the car with the foam, which will loosen any stuck kind of dirt on the paint as well, and rinse that off. So already the car, you can say, is about 60 to 70% clean. Taking it over, of course, with the mitt now will finish off the job. So notice what I'm doing. I'm squeezing the mitt first to get all that soap and water off the mitt and onto the painted surface, and then going over it really, really lightly. I can't stress enough, I'm just very gently going over. I flipped the mitt over here, and notice as well, straight lines. There's no need for circles or anything like that. I only have to go over the section once. You go over it once and you don't need to come back over the same section that you just wiped on your paint panel. Going over things more than once is unnecessary because it's already cleaned the first time. And say for instance, if you did happen to pick up a bit of soap, you're spreading it back on. Now notice as well, this is the 2-bucket method, so I'm washing out the mitt and then dunking it back into the soap to take that straight back onto the painted surface. Again, squeeze, add that lubrication, and then straight lines, no overpassing, and the rest of the car gets cleaned. One more time, into the water, squeeze it out, get all that gunk off. Now the clean mitt into a clean bucket of soap and straight back onto the painted surface again. Squeeze and wipe. Absolutely no pressure. So now I've got the blue noodle mitt. I'm going to take that through all the grubby areas. So under that fender liner and under the side skirts, right round to the bottom areas of the car. And I can show you here up close. You can just see in the middle there's those black noodles that have picked up quite a bit of dirt. That's the kind of stuff that the microfiber is really good at picking up and holding. But of course, you want to try and knock that out as best you can before you add that back into your soap bucket and then keep going with the car. So final rinse now with the high pressure hose. Again, if you don't have one, it's okay. You can just use your hose here so to get off all the soap. Final spray and the car's pulled in.
Okay guys, so I've just washed the car and I've pulled it into the garage, and while it's still wet, I haven't started to dry it yet. Just want to talk about very quickly what you want to use to dry the car. Now what I've got here is actually a very cheap, this cost me $10. It's a microfiber towel that you can pick up at Super Cheap Auto, Autobahn. I even bought this one at Kmart. The reason why this one is so good is because it has quite a dense and thick microfiber pile. What you'll notice is that microfiber towels come in different shapes, sizes, colors, but most importantly how dense their fibers are. The reason why I like this one is because it has a nice thick pile. What I like about that is that it can hold a lot of water. It also has the ability to pick up any mist or leftover dirt. The reason why we use microfiber towels to dry a car and not chamois anymore, because chamois are really good at holding lots of water, but they don't have the ability to pick up dirt safely. And trust me, when you wash your car, there's going to be one little spot that you either missed or you didn't know was even dirty or could be possibly dirty. What you want to do is with the microfiber towel, this is the same bucket that I used to rinse the mitts before I dunked them into the soap bucket before. I've cleaned it out, filled it up with plain water, dunked the microfiber in so it's fully wet. You'll feel it become really heavy, and that's because it's soaking up quite a lot of water, of course. And then just simply, you just want to take as much water out of it as possible. So you want to keep it damp. So now that is a damp microfiber cloth that's ready to go onto your paint and soak up water. What you'll notice is that this soaks up water incredibly well. We always want to have as much lubricity as possible when washing, when drying. This is the part where people can really make some mistakes, and this is where the swirl marks can happen on your car, is just from the drying process. So I see a lot of people scrunch up their towels and then start going for their life on the paint. It's not what you want to do. Just like I gently, barely touched this, the paint with the soap in my mitt from before, all you need to do is barely touch the paint again. If you lay it over and then just gently drag it across and bring it up, you'll find that it takes off most of the water. If you want to go a bit of an extra step, what you can do, I like to use this product called Afterglow by Bowden's Own. It's basically a spray that you can spray onto your drying towel before you place it onto the paint. So it adds that little bit extra slickness, that bit of lubricity between the towel, the water, and the paint, so that you minimize scratching, have the safest possible dry, but also add a little bit of shine while you dry as well. So for instance, here are our water droplets. I put this straight over and we're dry. So that's as easy as it can be. That's a damp microfiber towel. Another technique that you want to try and use, when you place the towel, and I'm trying to do this one-handed, when you pull across, you want to try and lift up as you do so. The reason being is because if you keep dragging along that single edge, if there's any dirt, it piles up all on that edge, and then you keep dragging that across the paint. But by lifting and rolling as you bring it up, it gives all the fibers a chance to pick up any residual dirt that might be left over on the paint, and you get more wear out of the microfiber before you have to wring it out again full of water. So again, water droplets, just our nice folding technique, and we're away. Just that part there, and it's done.
There's no need to put it down and start rubbing, absolutely no need necessary. And what you'll find is that you can't really pick it up on camera, but when I've done that, it's left more residue behind. Now you can kind of see it there in the light, there's kind of streak marks. You just want to go over it really lightly. No pressure at all. Absolutely no pressure. Flip it over. If it gets too full, and then those little parts there you can go back over if you've missed anything, and you get yourself dry, nice shiny surface. Another thing I should mention as well, I always like to use the yellow side of this towel when I'm drying the paint, just because if I go over a section and I check my cloth afterwards and I see that I have any black kind of streaks, I know that it's dirty in that section. I might even grab some of that afterglow, spray it over the dirty section and then wipe over it, so that I'm not using a dirty part of the car, clean part of the towel to start wiping, because of course dry wiping or wiping without any sort of lubrication in between is our enemy. You always want to have at minimum water and at best a bit of soap or some sort of product like a quick detailer, which is like a silicone kind of spray, or the Afterglow, which I'm using today. Again, if you get a black mark on your towel, take it straight to the bucket, dunk it in, grab it, use your fingers, get that mark out as best as you can, so it's clean and those fibers can pick up again and they're not full of dirt, and the fibers will have a nice time cleaning the rest of your car and drying it up. Just the last final tip on drying here. I've just sprayed some quick detailer onto a microfiber towel, gone under the wiper blades. You can see there's a huge black mark left, and that's from all the dirt that gets onto your wiper blades. You'd be surprised how much it picks up. And that finishes off this part of washing and drying your car.